Oh, hi everybody. This is going to be the base little video on my little journey with the big C. I did say I was going to put this out just so that there's some groundwork to some ongoing information and kind of sharing around with this. Um, I'm not great about talking about myself, so I'll do a little bit of a preview here that might help keep some things in a context. Um, for the last few years, 10 years plus, I guess, I've been, for lack of a better term, involved in the whole truther movement type of go, or what I kind of more refer to now as the awakening. Um, and on a vast amount of subjects, law, chemtrails, GMOs, so forth and so on. Karen, my wife, has shared in some of this, maybe not to the extent that I do, and in depth on certain subjects. Hers has always been much more to the alternative medicine side and so forth, and as we refer to as the medical mafia. Um, and that's kind of some of the real base position of where this journey started for me. So hopefully that will help put in context some of my reactions and so forth. So I'm going to try to keep these to very simple, short goes. So I'll skip through a lot of details that happening and just try to stay to solid points and so forth. So approximately 6, 7 weeks ago, uh, I was having a real bad bout with diarrhea, and the typical guy type of thing. Figure, okay, you ate something bad, couple days it'll be okay. Well, a couple days it wasn't, and then uh, I'd stopped going altogether. And figured it was just the reverse and it'll work itself out. Well, this continued for a few days, and I finally relented and went into the doctor. I hadn't gone now in 4 or 5 days. I was extended. I wasn't comfortable at all and so forth. So I went in, saw our family doctor, and he requested an abdominal MRI. So all good. Come back. By the next day, I'm in a lot of pain. I'm not moving around very much, so forth and so on. I go into our local town emergency. They do a quick x-ray, and the doctor comes in from that and says, we want you to head down to our closest city, which in our case was Belleville, hour and a half away. We want you down there for a full MRI by 8 o'clock in the morning. So by this time, I'm kind of been up for 24 hours plus, and I had to kill a few hours in order to get down there for 8 o'clock. They told me to stay there for the results. So I did all that stuff. Go through the whole, and this is where I'll skip some details, but definitely a mafia group involved with these people. So I get checked in there, get the MRI, do everything else, get the results in a couple of minutes, and they say, go check in. So I go and check in, go through the whole information again, whole process and so forth. If these people spent a tenth of their time actually doing something than worrying about their paperwork, it would be amazing. Get checked in, was in the emergency room for approximately 2.5 hours. And at that time, I had a person just draw the drape across and go, well, you've got cancer, so you've got now a spot on your bowel, which is a total blockage. You've got another shadowing on your abdomen and another one on your liver. So it's pretty certain it's cancer, so our best course right now is just to remove all of your intestines and give you a bag. This all in like one small 30-second time. And I went, whoa, number one, who are you? And two, there has to be other options here. Like, I mean, what are you talking about here? Like, and how do you just tell that from a picture? Well, it's most likely, and again, well, now we spend the next 10 minutes going back and forth of hearing the terms, most likely, and this is our best option. So, me kind of being who I am a little bit, turned around and said, okay, well, this doesn't make any sense to me in any kind of logical form. I mean, if I am working on a house and I've got a bad plug in the wall, I don't turn around and rip out the fuse box because I got a bad plug over here. And especially just because I plugged in a lamp and the light bulb won't go on. So, what about simply cutting out that part and putting the other parts back together? Well, that's not our best option. Well, it might not be your best option, but it sure sounds like it to me that that'd be a better option for me. Well, this is our best option to go forward. I said, okay, I'll leave. I'll go to Toronto, which is our main city around, and see what somebody else says. By this time, too, I'm being kind of at this for 40 hours. I haven't eaten or drink. I haven't taken any meds whatsoever because I want to be able to drive. I want to be able to move. I want to be able to think clear. So I didn't take anything, even though when I was in there, they had said, well, here's stuff for the pain. I went, no thanks. I'll wait until I see somebody. So after that statement, she finally said that, well, we don't have the resources here to do anything like that, so we'll send you to the next biggest city, which would be in Kingston. So she goes, well, this is pretty aggressive, so we'll get your transportation, because we don't want you driving, we'll get your transportation settled for over there. 3 hours later, still no words and still no nothing happening and the rest of it. By this time, me and the nurse are getting, and then the kind of the emerged staff are getting along pretty good. And I will say on the level of staff that I dealt with through the several different spots of going through this experience, the main boots on the ground staff are phenomenal. The nurses and the attendants and the other people were just fantastic, and even to the point where the nurse in Belleville and the one in Kingston that I dealt with most, they were so visibly frustrated by things. You know, my heart goes out to them because there's an awful lot of good people and everything that are doing their absolute best with what they're given and what they're allowed to do. So that being said, I come back in, I'm chatting with the nurse, and I go, well, you know, call this doctor. If everything was supposed to be so dire that she just wanted to put me under 5 hours ago and rip all my guts out, why am I still sitting here? So apparently there was a problem with the transportation because they actually didn't want to transport me because I'm a big guy. So they were all worried about this, and she tried to explain to them, look, the guy's walking around, he's palliative, he can go, you don't have to send 4 attendants and all the rest of it. So their response was basically, well, we kind of got him booked in for around 11 tonight. And this is 3 in the afternoon. So I said to her, okay, well, I'm leaving. I'll drive myself over. And she goes, well, let me give the doctor a chance. And I said, well, tell her point blank that go and look at it. If everything was such an emergency, why aren't you sending me over in an ambulance instead of waiting for this taxi service? And, you know what? Besides that, tell her I'm a real pain in the ass and you want me out of here. Free up a bed. So she ended up more or less doing that. And 10 minutes later, an ambulance shows up and I get transported over. At this time, at least they knew I was coming. I got checked right into emergency without having to go through the admin thing. But basically, you still had to go through the whole pre-check again and the whole story again and history again and blah, blah, blah. Which is all well and good. So now we're into 3:30, 4 o'clock. The next day from when I was up in my local town. And a young female doctor comes in and was an absolute brilliant woman. She was listening, compassionate, and kind of got the full story and the full gist of what my questions and what information I'd be given so far, which was very little. And she went fine. She's part of a surgical team there. And she was waiting for her colleague to come in and see me. So about a half an hour later, I get basically almost exactly the same thing as I got from the woman in Belleville. Drape comes across going, this is what you got. We've got to just remove everything and here's your bag. And I said, that's not what I came here for. There's nothing in the files, nothing in the notes. You didn't speak with her. And she's standing over at the side. And you can clearly tell she's an underling to this guy. And he basically just repeated himself. And I said, well, that's not happening. So get over yourself and think of something else or tell me you're too incompetent to do anything. So go to Toronto where they have the staff to be able to answer your questions at least. He kind of stormed out. I don't know why. But she hung back and she says, just give me a few minutes here and I'm going to be back. So about 15 minutes later, she came back and she introduced a young gentleman and he was from the don't know how to pronounce it. Gastro segment. So again, really nice guy, brilliant, really listened to everything, so forth and so on, and he explained the procedure of putting a stent in to alleviate the blockage itself. Confirmed that this was not a solution. It was temporary. It would give time to digest what's going on and would hopefully relieve all of these symptoms and so forth and buy me some time. So I said fine. He explained that there's only 2 members on their whole team that are presently qualified to do this. They're getting a hold of them and it was going to be booked for the morning. So they check me in upstairs, away I go. Again, all the staff side of things, boots on the ground people were wonderful. And by probably 9:30 or so, by this time, I'm calling Karen and I'm giving her the gist update of things. So, of course, she's quite upset and so forth. Luckily, we had people at the house. At this time we had our litter of puppies that we were taking care of, 16 of them, our pride and joys. And so logistically, everything was kind of a bit of a mess, and now I'm 2.5 hour drive away. So she starts to boot down, and Really, that was one of my biggest concerns in the first place, was just not being there for her in getting this type of things and not being able to do it in person. So, but either way, it worked out the way it did. As it turned out, the gentleman, the nurse came in and said, "Your young guy has gotten your doctor's got a hold of his colleague. He came right in. We're going to do this in a half an hour from now. Let's get you ready." Bang, bang, bang. Again, long story short, all of this went really well. By 11:30 or so, I'm back in my room, and by this time now I'm just exhausted. Procedure all went well, so forth and so on. Karen was there. I said I'm all fine. She relaxed a little bit, and I actually proceeded to get a little bit of sleep. So by the time all said was said and done, it's kind of 1:30 in the morning now, and I'm passing out. Fast forward to the first thing in the morning. I wake up about 7 o'clock. I'm feeling not bad. I got no pain, no anything else. Within a half an hour, I was on a little bit of ice chips and so forth. I'm going to the bathroom again. I passed the stool, so that was functioning. And I'm feeling just fine. The extension is decreased almost to nothing, and I'm feeling normal. So that's a tendency for me. I heal pretty quick and so forth, so I'm pretty lucky this way. So there's a good go on everything. By around 8 o'clock, we get the parade, the morning rounds. So I get this next round doctor, I guess, who's the third guy on the surgical team. And he's got his troops behind him. And he pulls across and goes, "Well, so here we have this." And he's scheduled for a procedure before lunch. And I kind of looked at him and said, "Just like, what kind of clown show are you? Again, you come in here and you don't even introduce yourself. You don't know who I am. You don't know nothing of the file. The procedure was done last night. I'm feeling good. Like, what shit show are you running?" And even his little underling turned around and opened the book to him and went, "Yeah, it was all done last night, and these vitals are good." And so he kind of backtracked a little bit and said, "Okay, well, we'll release you in a couple of days. We want another scan done of your upper, and we want to make sure everything's taken and you're doing good." I said, "Okay." I said, "It doesn't take a couple of days. We've got things to do and all the rest of it." He says, "Well, I want this scan done, and then we'll talk later on this morning." Okay, bye-bye now. So we go downstairs. Now time passes. I'm out, and we're having our coffee. I have my smoke. We found a little place down at the lake, and we're kind of just back and forth waiting for this scan. We've checked in a couple of times. Now it's running 11:30, 12:30. And we asked the nurse, again, who we get along very well with, and said, "What's going on?" And she turned around and looked and went, "Your scan was canceled." "Well, what are you talking about?" "This is what we're waiting for." She tried to find what's going on. Nothing was going on. An hour later, I turned around and went and said, "Look, I've gone 3 or 4 times. We had some light food. We've been drinking. I feel great. Everything else is good. We've got a 4-hour drive, or 3.5 hour drive. We got dogs to look after. We got puppies to look after. I've got work to do. Blah, blah, blah. Life goes on. I'm not sitting around for this shit show. That is you guys." And she got what I was saying, and like I said, she was visibly frustrated by the whole situation, what was going on with the doctors and the information I was getting and that she was getting. And now another half an hour later, she goes, I don't know what to say. He's not answering me. He's down in emergency. The doctor's not answering me. Nobody's returning anything. And I said, well, I'm leaving. See you later. And signed myself out. So that was the basic gist of the whole avenue. One point to mention, one of the nurses I was speaking with in Belleville, we got into a discussion, and I find out that the little triangle that exists out in our mid-east Ontario is the hospital in Bancroft, the hospital in Belleville, and the hospital in Kingston, which forms a nice little triangle of this square mileage, are all owned by the same corporation, which, even by the nurses' reckoning, this is a big money shell between all of them. Everybody is shipped around between the three of them. Procedures are done multiple times. The story just goes on. So you could imagine what now this little conglomerate has control over the so-called, what they want to call healthcare of this whole territory, which did not surprise me whatsoever. It just kind of confirmed how a lot of things were working. So we get home. The next day, somebody calls to rebook an MRI. What do you mean rebook an MRI? She goes, well, you were in Kingston yesterday. Well, the machine was broken. So that's why your procedure was canceled. And I said, well, why didn't anybody say that? Like, we could have left hours prior. And not only that, the nurses could have gone through a lot less frustration. Then an hour later, I get another call for an appointment for an MRI, which was the original appointment that my family doctor had asked for now 5 days ago, which was surprising. Then proceeding in the afternoon, I get 3 different calls from cancer centers between Kingston and Belleville, all to get appointments and to get in here, and we need to get going on things. I said, no thanks. We'll be seeing our family doctor, rebooking the upper MRI, but we'll be going to Peterborough, which is our next closest town, but directly west of us, who's got a pretty good facility in it. So that's what we proceeded to do. So that's kind of the first go around. I'll do a couple of, like I said, I want to keep these to somewhat reasonable lengths. And I don't want to get on babbling and so forth. So I'll do a couple more that are some more updates from this. There's another one that's up, kind of call it the first treatment. But I wanted to start sharing these. I know I've seen quite a few of other people sharing their stories and so forth. I've appreciated them. They'll do what they do. Hopefully it will help some other people with some understanding, maybe with some direction, maybe some information that we come across, and share on this journey of trying to take care of the situation. Hopefully it will help somebody. But at the very least, I thought it was also important to share this experience because that's what we're supposed to do. It's very important to me that you can't complain about a systems and the condition of this world and the environment we live on if you're not willing to sit back and do something about it too. So this is my little way of helping to do that, I hope. And if anything else, I want you to know that standing up for yourself and not handing your power over to somebody else is maybe one of the most important things you can ever do for yourself and anybody else around you your whole life. If I didn't come from that kind of maybe a little bit more knowledgeable background and maybe a little bit more edge to me, for lack of a better term, I'd be sitting here now 7 weeks after going to Belleville with no intestines and sitting with a bag with my whole life changed. And, you know, me and Karen have had a couple of these conversations. We've had it with some other people. It absolutely sickens me that that person in Belleville actually is there. How many people has that person's destroyed their lives or changed forever at the very least, for no reason, for no cause other than their ego and the money that it generates. The only reason whatsoever that she wanted to do this was another tick in her mark, another set of fees, and that she was too incompetent or too ignorant to be able to do anything else. So don't be afraid to stand up. Nobody, absolutely nobody else has any more authority than you do. It is your life. It is your decisions. It's your consequences. It's your everything. And, you know, I don't want to get into a whole bunch of politics and all the rest of it, but the bottom line is you are your own sovereign. You are part of the creation. You are the creator. You are creating this. I even feel on some kind of conscious level, I have created this condition in order to have this experience. Yes, I've had knowledge of things. I had knowledge of the medical mafia, the pharmaceutical systems, our so-called healthcare system, which has nothing to do with health. It functions strictly to cut out and poison, and that's it. That's not a health system to me. But that's knowledge-based. So I get into my own meditations and seeking answers, and I really do believe, so in some level, somewhere, I let this condition continue and to happen and to manifest itself out so that I would go from just having knowledge to having a knowing, to have just a view to having an experience. And that's the way I choose to look at it. And that's the way I choose to look at moving things forward. So if anything out of this, I hope at the very least it will encourage some to don't be afraid to stand up. I'm sitting here and I have this condition that we've got to deal with, but I'm not sitting here with some person that I have no clue who is, no clue how qualified they are, no clue to how many people they killed by their mistakes last year, last month, last week, and was totally willing just to rip out my innards for no reason, because they saw an image on a screen. No biopsy, no tests, no anything else. Oh, I see this, we're going to remove all of this guy's parts. Seriously? How is this person even allowed around anybody else? It's so mind-boggling disgusting. But that's my opinion. Either way, um, I hope this finds you well. Love out to you. And I'm going to do a couple more short ones over the next few days to update you on what the path has been over the last 4 weeks or so. And by all means, I hope to either hear from you. There's the Facebook. Be more than happy to reach out. And I'll pay attention to the comments. I'll reply to what I can. And let's keep on moving forward. Blessings.